Good morning, this is Beaty-Coffey of the Ministry of Uncovering No More. I am, excuse me, coming up with a new schedule. I've done this many, many times as the kind of lifestyle that my family needed to live and does live. I was the one person that could be on the ground, the gopher at times, many times. I was telling someone who needs to learn to drive in the next couple of years, I'm so grateful. I took so many children so many places, and I'm so grateful that I didn't go through the pain of having an accident. I'm still a very careful driver, probably stupid to a lot of people, particularly in Austin. But I'm grateful that I didn't need to struggle, be broken that way. And I know people who were broken that way, and they are beautiful people too. And sometimes young people need to be helped to have courage to balance their perspective without any outside forces doing it for them. We are living in a society that believes in controlling children 100% of the time. I think series like The Hunger Games need to be considered very carefully. Indeed. So this is the second video for Vincent Benet's legend in Tiger Joy. And what I'm realizing with the entire book of Tiger Joy is that he has characters. And Rosemary is the woman, the child, the little girl in the entire book. So you find out by legend, by the poem Legend in the book. I read it 22nd of June 2024 and spontaneously sketched a phoenix crying into a fire in a pink container. And the phoenix is blue, orange. And what I'm telling you is that God the Father and God the Goddess the Mother are coming very clearly through the Democratic Party politically. It's what I'm telling you. Vote blue. Legend. Anyway, the first video I didn't, and I write about it. I've already written it into the article, so you'll get it twice. The kind of sight I have is a kaleidoscope. But I have the ability to stay in one section of a kaleidoscope and make it stop moving and only live in that section. But people around me do not know that about me. So what they do instinctively is all they see is what I'm doing wrong. And this has been happening to me for years. And then when people found out the kind of immortal that I am, and my mother and her family erred greatly in their way here. It is, their whole family picks each other apart. That's just a part of the paradigm. And my dad had to keep my family away from my mother's family for the most part. My whole life. See, Davis Beatty's weren't allowed to do that. But to say that there's just such a difference in the type of people that make up those two families that I'm not comparing them. I'm just saying it's two different types of families. And I can tell you, I witnessed it. They all love each other in that genre. But when you're raising children, and religious paradigms, you are trying to protect your children from the harsh realities. And you do it to a degree, but then the children have to grow up and deal with what they are called to deal with, what their destiny says they're to deal with. A lot of times I think parents get cut up in the process and left. And I've said this before, when you tell your mother, it's easy to text your mother and tell her that you hate her. I've had it happen, and they don't understand what the woman looks like on the other side of the text. But I've had things said to my face, and they do see what it does to me, and they still do it. And I'm not just talking about children, I'm just talking about people in general. But I wasn't raped as a child. Do you see the two different universes? And we need healing and wholeness in each of these universes. I'm not comparing them. I am showing you that I understand that some levels of painful existence are harder to come up out of. I am saying that without denigrating my journey. And I don't know anybody who has the ability to do that. And indeed, I can have no people in the room when I'm telling you this, because the reactions that I get are so extraordinarily strange to me. My dad was the exact same way. So I couldn't see, I'll go ahead and show it to you. I couldn't see the first page. I couldn't see it. I've already put a picture of it in the scene. And I told you in the blog article already in typing that I'm going to look up the vocabulary and write it there carefully. So now I've given you some more pontification, and I'm going to read the whole poem with a little more understanding about Rosemary, and it really gets to me in this poem because he is in the poem as Stephen, as a poor child. Maybe he was. I don't know. I haven't read his history yet. I have to be careful when I read histories of the people that I am privileged to be a part of in this little piece of my kaleidoscope world. Because it rocks my soul at our similarities. We're not dealing with information technologies. And I can't stress that strongly enough. We're different humans. You are. The pain in my life is that I'm not. The pain in my life is that I'm not. And so I am disciplining myself to be a part of your midst, only a little bit. And I am choosing not to be hurt anymore by the paradigm that continually rejects me. And instead show you a different way of balance, because you're the ones out of balance, new humans who depend on IT more than you do your human relationships. You are out of balance. And you don't like it that I know that when I show up, is basically it. You don't like it that I show you that because you don't want to be told that you're out of balance. Let me tell you something, Western world. No parent worth their shit is into telling you only things that you didn't want to hear or did want to hear. We have a responsibility to balance our message. And so since what happened to me caused so much dishevel, I figured a way to be there still. And looking you in the face, whomever you are, you know who you are, and saying, you are a different human being. That is no excuse. Put your nose in a book more often. Get your journal. And otherwise, learn to talk less, bully less, point out negativity less, and be grateful more. And become more like me. And if you think the King himself in the gospel record didn't keep saying that, go read the gospel record. If you have seen the Father, you have seen me. Well, if you have seen Kara, you've seen a mother. And we need the mother roles every bit as much as the father roles. There is no way in that time, over 2,000 years ago, that he was going to be able to talk about the mother role. He would have been killed sooner. Or had to disappear over and over again sooner. You know, there's just some subjects you know you can't talk about. That's pretty much the way it is with the kings of words in the gospel record. Evolution is evolution in time. So, there you have it. All right. Legend. The trees were sugared like wedding cake, with a bright hoar frost, with a very cold snow, when we went begging for Jesus' sake, penniless children years ago. Diamond weather, but nothing to eat, in that fine, bleak bubble of earth and skies, nothing alive in the windy street, but two young children with hungry eyes, which is interesting because my dad almost died in a snowstorm. He sat down to take a nap, and I don't remember what happened, but he was saved as a child. We must go begging or we will die. I would sell my soul for an apple core. So we went mendicant, you and I, knock, knock, knock at each snow-choked door. Knock, knock, knock till our fingers froze. Nobody even replied, good day. Only the magistrate, toasting his toes, howled at us sleepily. Go away. Rosemary, dear, what shall we do? Stephen, I know not. Beseech some saint. My nose has turned to an icicle blue, and my belly within me is very faint. If there be saints, they are fast asleep, lounging in heaven in wraps of feather. Talk not so, or my eyes will weep, till the ice tears rattle and clink together. Saints are many, on which shall I call? He must be kindly without constraint. I think you had better pray to St. Paul. I have heard people call him a neighborly saint. Now I want you to understand something. When I read the rest of this poem, put your glasses on and listen to a sorceress for once in your little fucking life of too much time on your hands to complain about this, that, and the other, while children are dying on the other side of the world, or even 2 doors down. You know not. I'm not saying you can do anything about it, but I am saying you can weep with me. They had a vision. It is true that people begin to hallucinate in harsh conditions. That is true, and it is not insanity. It's the body dying. Down he flopped on his cold bare knees, breathed that smoked in the bitter air. Breath that smoked in the bitter air. Crossing his body with hands afreeze, he sought St. Paul in a vehement prayer. Scarce had these shiverers piped, amen, cheeping like fledglings crying for bread, when good St. Paul appeared to them then, with a wide gold halo around his head. He waved his episcopal hand and smiled, and the ground was spread like a banquet table. Here is much good food for each hungry child, and I hope you will eat as long as you're able. Here are good thick cloaks for your ragged backs, and strong warm boots for your feet, said he. And for Stephen, gloves and a little axe, and a little fur muff for Rosemary. They thanked him humbly, saying a pater, before they had touched a morsel even. But he said, your thanks are for one far greater, and pointed his right arm up at heaven. For you are the sparrows around God's door. He will lift you up like his own great banner. But the folk who made you suffer so sore, he shall deal with them in another manner. It is his own will to transport those folk to a region of infinite ice and snow, and his breath was a taper of incense smoke, and he lifted a finger, and it was so. And the folk were gone, and the saint was fled, and we stared and stared at the wintry land, and in front of us there was a banquet spread, and a little fur muff on Rosemary's hand. They died, my loves, they died. I've seen death enough to know the true message of a poem like this. Legacy. Vote blue. Codify Roe versus Wade. And understand the release in death that children far and wide understand. Stephen Vincent Benet does. Kara Ann Beaty-Coffey does. Does that mean I wish for any person's death? No, it does not. It means that you have a hard heart and aren't willing to admit the deep truths. Small A America. This is Kara Coffey of the Ministry of Uncovered.